Scuttle Hole Gap on top of Pine Mountain, 2,510 feet. I've often looked at this mountain and wondered how you would get over it. There are some significant true gaps, but not many. And oftentimes, the pioneers, like the settlers of Kingdom Come Creek to the north, would simply cut their way up to what was a notch in the top of the mountain to get over and get their supplies and sell their wares. This is one of those notches, although it's called a gap. It's not very significant in my view, and I don't think that it was the reduced elevation in the top of the mountain that attracted them. I think instead it was the stream course that had created the notch, that created a more sloping terrace down to the bottom of the mountain that you could cut a trail. And so we're going to go down the trail to Scuttle Hole Gap on the north face of Pine Mountain and just see what it was like. The company kept will be those of the families that originally settled Kingdom Come Creek up to the north. We reach it here on Little Shepard Trail, one of Kentucky's best kept secrets. A road cut on the top of Pine Mountain on its crest. Here it is paved, but most of its length it is gravel. But what we're interested in right now is right here. For this is the old wagon road, which was originally a trail that the settlers cut to come open and over the majestic Pine Mountain. Welcome to Reggie's Realm. Let's get hiking. You can see here to my right that there is in fact a stream-cut depression. I won't call it a gorge, but certainly a valley. And when you consider that the Pine Mountain faces so sheer, straight up in fact, the north face of the great Pine Mountain overthrust block, this would be a route that you would want to take, probably one of the few routes you could take to reasonably get to the top of the mountain. And so they did here. Pine Mountain was formed when the continent of Africa slammed into eastern North America, snapping the rocks here and thrusting them upward, exposing the lower limestone beds to the surface. Limestone that you wouldn't see anywhere else here unless you made it all the way to the inner bluegrass of Kentucky around Lexington. So there are limestone mines on this mountain where they can get the crushed rock to build roads. Here's a better look at the upper valley here. I think it's something of a hanging valley, and I could imagine that the settlers would stop here, make camp after their oxen pulled up their wagons and get ready to go on the other side. This is a hemlock tree, Zuga canadensis, that I studied extensively in my graduate studies in biology. It's being attacked by the woolly adelgid, which will kill it. It's a foreign pest, and I can see that's already here. Eventually, all these hemlocks will die, and with them the ecosystem that their acidic needles created in the soil beneath. And so these mountains will change. let's continue on, admiring this stream-cut valley wherein we could rest before we tackled either side of the mountain. You can see now coming down the trail that we've hit that famous sheer wall of Pine Mountain rock, and now that stream cascades directly down, and there is the openness that results from such a sheer tall mountain. Let's continue on carefully. And see what we get just past this turn. This is jewel weed that I'm brushing up against. Wonderful little exploding capsules after its yellow flowers form. Yeah, so it was far too steep to come up the creek bed here. So the trail clinged to the side of the rock face on this side, and later a wagon road, very primitive, was hacked out. We're now crossing around that face. This is the Scuttle Hole Gap Trail. Many lives, many stories could be told about this passage, and I will add mine to the dialogue. The great Cumberland Plateau, the mountains of eastern Kentucky off to the north. Got to be careful though as I'm hiking and filming, because that's a pretty significant drop off to my right. Here we are back in the shadows of the forest. A good place to put down my camera and concentrate on my progress. Here's another portion that has switched back in on itself. That's how they would have to have come up the cliff, no longer having a stream valley to climb. I wonder how long this wagon road was in use. Some improvements have been done. It's such an old road, it might even have been taken into the county. This spot needed a bit of work. But that pipe is pretty old. Let's see what happens going forward. I'd say we've only dropped about a quarter of the elevation of the mountain. Back out to the cliff face, I believe, for there is the great expanse overlooking the valley, I think of New Line Creek, beyond which is the Great Cumberland Plateau, the great coal fields of Kentucky. There's no coal on Pine Mountain, although there are substantial reserves just to the south in Black Mountain, in the area between Pine Mountain to the north and the Cumberland Mountain to the south. Pretty groovy. I think I'll take a break. I brought my stool. Here at Reggie's Realm. Now what do we have here? The road is kept crisscrossing back. There's at least one dog and a structure. So maybe we've come to the portion of the mountain slope that is populated on Scuttle Gap, or Scuttle Hole Gap Road, down where I parked the car. We will see as we turn this corner. Yes, indeed. I believe we've come out into civilization, for that is a graveled road. Let's see where it goes. And there are the puppy dogs guarding the compound. At least one of them is a border collie, I think. Yes, there's a home. And the road with which I came out, and now the road on which I'm going to go. So let's walk out down Scuttle Hole Gap Road, past the sentry dogs. Away we go. Hello, puppies. Hello, puppy dogs. Nice part of the world. Look at that wonderful spot. And there are the great Cumberland Mountains of Kentucky, the Cumberland Plateau, the great coal fields. Straight ahead you go. What a wilderness Kentucky still is. And you can see that there's quite a ways down yet for us to climb. But at least they were able to open up some land on the very lower portion for settlement, although I suspect it's pretty rugged at the base of the mountain. But also very pretty. There are your telephone wires, maybe your internet. You could live in God's country just over the mountain from Kingdom Come and realize you live somewhere special. Yes, very special. And I feel very fortunate to be here and to walk in the steps of the pioneers, but also the later settlers that made their life here, lived out their life here, died here, and whose descendants regularly come back to celebrate their existence by picnics at the cemeteries. One of the cemeteries that we passed coming down here was the Creech Cemetery. Of course, that's over by Pine Mountain in the settlement school. Creech is the one that donated the land in 1913, I think, to establish the school. This community here was just over the ridge to the north from the settlements at Kingdom Come. I've written about that wondrous little valley, and I can imagine the soon-to-be Kentuckians who came over this Scuttle Hole Gap road looked over and saw the wondrous hidden nature available to us all. So let's keep going. So it looks like Scuttle Hole Gap Road is still maintained, maybe the bottom third of the mountain. I just saw a mail truck come by to deliver the mail. So it's really not that bad. I'm convinced now that Scuttle Hole Gap Road, probably all the way up to the Little Shepard Trails, probably a county road. But here you see we're coming down, just a couple of houses widely spread above me, but I think here we're starting to see a greater accumulation of residences, wonderful places to be living. And in that little pool, a wonderful place to be cooling off. So here we are, you can see it opening up. Sunny day, it's July. I wonder what their postal code is, whether it's considered Whitesburg or Cowan or Scuttle Hole Gap. So let's keep on going till we get to the bottom. And here we are at the bottom. Over that ridge there, Kingdom Come Creek, and the settlers who carved this road out. Scuttle Hole Gap. There's a historical marker here. So we'll end our journey into Reggie's realm reading some data. So we're over the mountains. What we see ahead of us, Cumberland Mountains, different than the Pine Mountain, the sheer mountain behind us. This is Line Fork, I think. And here is our informational marker. I'll read it. Scuttle Hole Gap Road, Indians or buffalo probably were the first to follow this gap and make a trail across Pine Mountain. First white settlers, about 1800, made trail into the treacherous Wagon Road, their only route to Virginia for supplies of flour, salt, and sugar. Called Scuttle Hole Gap, meaning deep gorge through cliffs, trail goes 7 miles from here into the Cumberland River Valley. Well, I just started up there at that deep gorge, and I just call it a little notch if you ask me. But it's the way they were able to get across this gigantic mountain, and I'm glad to have taken part of that journey with them. Kind of groovy, pretty nifty. Let's take one more look at the road and the mountain behind. Yep, way up there. Welcome to Reggie's Realm.